Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It is Thursday, July 30th, 2020. It is 10:37 by my watch, and I am calling this meeting in order. Before we begin, please note that all public meetings will be recorded. When a participant logs in via their computer or calls in to join the meeting, their name and/or phone number will be visible to all participants. Unless you are providing public comment, your audio will be muted and your video will be disabled. Persons wishing to be audience members to the meeting may do so anonymously. Anonymous participants, however, will not be recognized for public comment. Persons who seek to bypass the city's host controls will be dropped and blocked from the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. Item number 2, roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton.
Here.
Councilmember Hamada.
Here.
Councilmember Santenaz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Here.
Mayor Garza.
Here. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Item number 3, public comments. Mr. Stewart.
Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3A, the public may address the City Council on matters listed on the agenda. Those wishing to speak on an agenda item then must utilize one of the methods listed on page 2 of the agenda. You will be given 3 minutes to address the City Council. Attempts to provide comment at times not designated on the agenda may result in the council dropping you from the meeting.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. City Manager. I know that we only have 2 items for consideration today, and I know this is the portion of the meeting where the public again is allowed to make comments regarding the items during the that are agendized for today. So I would expect that we're gonna potentially get a good amount of robust public comment on our main item 4A. So just a reminder, you do have obviously the right to be able to make comment on that item at this point in time, or if you wish to hold off your items till when we consider the item at that point in time, you're also welcome to that as well. So with that, Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments regarding any of the 2 items on our City Council agenda item for today?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature.
You know what, while you're doing that, Madam Deputy City Clerk, let me make this announcement. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature. If participating by computer, it appears under the Participants tab. If by phone app, it will appear under the More button at the bottom right-hand corner, or if by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand. You will be called upon by the Deputy City Clerk in the order received. You can then unmute your microphone so that you can provide your comments at that point in time. So thank you for your indulgence, Madam Deputy City Clerk.
Mayor, I show that Mr. Jason Tollison has his hand raised. Mr. Tollison, if you would give me a moment just to get the timer on the screen and then you can begin. Go ahead, Mr. Tollison.
Thank you. Good morning, council members and staff. This is Jason Tollison from Serrano Development Group. I'm the representative for 16411 Bellflower LLC. We are developing a large mixed-use project on the corner of Bellflower and Main Street in downtown Bellflower. And I'd just like to express my support for the item before you to increase the sales tax as a revenue generating tool for the city relative to other ways of generating revenue. I think.
Mr. Tollison, does that complete your comments, sir?
I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback.
Before we begin, note that all public
Okay, I'll just keep talking. In any event, I don't see the increase in sales tax as a material headwind for us to lease retail in our project. And I think it's a reasonable tool for the city to generate revenue. So I just want to express my support.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Tollison. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make comment at this point in time?
Mayor, I don't see any other public at this time.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. Item 4A, Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a lengthy, as you indicated earlier, a lengthy description of an agenda item, so I'm going to read the first part to you and then indicate that in addition, I'll read the first part to you, then I'll tell you how we'll recommend this going forward. This is a consideration of possible action to implement the recommendation of the City Council appointed Revenue Subcommittee to place a ballot measure for consideration by the voters on the November 3rd, 2020 special and general election by adopting the following resolutions. What you have following that is a list of 4 resolutions, perhaps 5. There is a 5th discretionary resolution, which we will read by number and content. The first 4 are necessary to place the item on the ballot. The 5th discretionary resolution, number 20-46 in the packet, but not listed on the recommendation in the front, is a discretionary resolution that allows the council to show its support for this measure if it chooses to do so. But that's a policy call on the council, and we'll read these resolutions when we get closer to the recommendation. This item comes to you after a long period of time, quite frankly, starting all the way back in 2013, in January 2013, when the state of California eliminated the redevelopment agencies. It started a trend of fiscal revenue instability, which carried through into the fall that year when the council took Measure P, which was a half-cent addition to the existing utility users tax to the voters for approval, with a series of recommendations that the council held to stringently. They spent the money on economic development, providing public safety, and ensuring youth services over the course of the 5 years of that measure, and they allowed the measure to sunset, as the city council promised the voters they would do. Now, with that said, the council at the end of, in 2018, when the measure sunsetted, there was a small but vocal group of people that were looking to the staff of the council and showing their support for continuation of the revenue source. However, rather than put the item back on the ballot for a public test, then the council, and I think wisely, said, nope, we promised them we'd let it sunset, and the council did let it sunset. However, since that time, we've learned that the city's revenues are not necessarily stable, and we have made substantial progress at a variety of fronts since 2012 and 2013, that pretty seminal year. And in order to keep the progress going on the economic development front, on the public safety front, on the youth services front, it looks like there's going to need to be an increase in revenue. Toward that end, the council appointed a Revenue Ad Hoc Subcommittee, in addition to a Charter Ad Hoc Subcommittee, to discuss the revenues and whether or not there'd be a local city charter. At this time, the city is not looking to proceed with a local city charter. However, the Revenue Ad Hoc Subcommittee has made specific recommendations regarding an additional sales tax measure to be placed on the November 3rd ballot. And this is what this item is today, and the resolutions that we have included in this packet today to support. It should be noted that, before I get into what those taxes would be used for, it should be noted the California sales tax comprised of 3 different components, as stated in the first section of fiscal overview impact section of your staff report. It's a local tax, and a tax that may be imposed by a taxing district. The district includes cities, counties, and other public entities. Currently, the combined state and local sales tax in Bellflower equals 9.5%. I'm sorry, 9.5%. The most that it can constitutionally be raised to is 10.25%, 10.25%. And that would include all the taxing entities within LA County and the potential special districts. As you know, AQMD is looking at perhaps a sales tax addition. So part of the recommendation of the ad hoc subcommittee was to increase the sales tax by 0.75% in the city of Bellflower, which would take it up to the constitutional max of the sales tax that can be collected in the city of Bellflower, and it would allow a local control of the sales tax that's collected, rather than leave it under the constitutional limit, have another entity such as AQMD adopt that tax and then collect the limit, and it would be completely outside the city's hands. The other thing that the concern of the ad hoc subcommittee on this was that the outside entities that collected sales tax in the city of Bellflower, namely the county, and with the homeless measure and the transportation measures that have been approved, out of that, the city only gets returned 17 cents out of every dollar on those numbers coming in. So it is a recommendation from the ad hoc subcommittee to replace and stabilize the city's revenue source with a 3/4 cent increase in the sales tax collected in Bellflower, ensuring that the local government gets 100% of that revenue collected, rather than the significantly diminished return that would come from another entity, such as the county or the AQMD or another taxing entity would collect it and not return it to the city. So it becomes a local control issue as well. On the items that were discussed, is that I want to make it clear that the themes that were discussed by the ad hoc revenue committee was the local control that I just mentioned, mentioning Measure H and Measure M, and the lack of return on that. The second item is homelessness. The progress on homelessness in the city has been noted. The expense of making that progress has been noted. And the committee wants to ensure that we continue to make that progress, continue to fund the shelter that's currently in operation, and they want to ensure the revenue source that will allow that continuance. The third item is streets. Nearly half the streets and the roads and the alleys that were rated at independent engineers are either poor or very poor in Bellflower. These are essential repairs that have to be made. 77% of the public supports that. Youth programs, huge in the city. They're locally controlled, and the residents and the ad hoc subcommittee want to see, and I can say residents and ad hoc subcommittee because we've done some polling on this, they want to see the continuation of these services because it provides services to over 15,000 kids in the community and provides for supervised activities that keeps them off the streets. The way the community has responded to these priorities is pretty significant. So we've got data that shows that continuing funding emergency and safety response, we have an 83% support rate response from the public. Keeping public areas clean and safe, 87%. Ensuring the supply of drinking water, 84%. Retaining local businesses, 84%. Preparing for and recovering from public health emergencies, which is becoming especially important with the COVID virus, 84%. Addressing homelessness, 81%. And maintaining a long-term financial stability, 81%. The last thing I want to talk about is since the ad hoc subcommittee met last summer before the COVID emergency, everything that we've talked about to date in the staff report has only been exacerbated, made worse by the COVID emergency. I read yesterday, for instance, in the LA Times that they're estimating the temporary loss of economy is a 32% decrease in the GDP realized by COVID. The result in the city of Bellflower is a significant loss. We estimate 1.6 million year one, 1.9 million year two, due to COVID and the loss of the revenue. So everything we said before, it basically goes double with regard to the hopefully, potentially short-term impact of COVID, but a very significant, affecting the city very significantly to date. So with that, as I indicated, the ad hoc subcommittee is recommending that the council place this item on the November 3rd ballot for voter approval. Should the council wish to do that, I'm going to read these resolutions now so we can say we did that. It would be necessary to approve the following. I'm going to read it specifically. It would be necessary to adopt resolution number 20-42, a resolution adding a proposition to the ballot for the previously called November 3rd, 2020 special and general municipal election pursuant to Election Code 9, Section 9222. The second item, if the council wishes to add this to the ballot for consideration, is adoption of resolution number 20-43, a resolution requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles to add a measure contest to the previously consolidated election and general municipal election to be held on November 3rd, 2020, with the general election to be held on that date pursuant to the Elections Code, Section 10403. The third item that would be necessary if we wish to add this item is a resolution directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis of the proposition captioned "An Ordinance to Maintain Bellflower's Long-Term Financial Stability, Fund Emergency and Safety Responses, Keep Public Areas Clean, Safe, Ensure the Supply of Clean Drinking Water, Retain Local Businesses, Address Homelessness, Repair Streets, Maintain After-School Youth Disabled Senior Programs, and Fund Other General Municipal Services by establishing a 3/4 cent transactions and use bracket sales tax and bracket, raising approximately $4.5 million annually to maintain Bellflower's general municipal services with audits and public disclosure and spending. Last item necessary is Resolution 20-45, a resolution establishing requirements for ballot arguments filed with the city to be included with voter information for the special and general municipal election on November 3rd, 2020. The sixth resolution not listed on the recommendation, if the council so wishes to do so, and does approve the previous four items, the fifth item listed is resolution number 20-46, and it was a resolution which would show the council support for the ballot measure that would be added. Last, I want to mention to the city council that there's been a change. We substituted a sheet in front of you. There has been an administrative change to the wording of the actual ballot measure, striking out the word general election, general tax, at the very top of the box, showing the ballot measure itself. And other than that, the staff recommends going forward and answering any questions you may have.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stewart, for that comprehensive report. And if I may, just to piggyback on your comments regarding some modifications, I believe that and I'm not sure if you captured it. If you did, my apologies for being duplicative, but I believe on resolution number 20-42 and 20-43, there is a modification to the proposed language in here and it's highlighted, adding language that says that will remain in effect until terminated by voters. Correct? Okay, great. If I repeated what you already said, I apologize.
Thank you for adding that. I should have.
Not a problem. Just want to make sure that the public is aware. And again, that applies to resolutions 20-42 and 20-43. That's before us today. So again, Mr. Stewart, thank you so much for introducing this item. Any other comments from staff before we bring it back to the dais? Mr. Berger.
One last thing, just to tag team off the city manager's comments, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The council may also designate individuals to write arguments in favor of this particular ballot proposition if they so desire.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Mr. City Attorney. Any other comments from staff before we start asking questions regarding this today? All right, hearing none, then I just want to start off by thanking our Revenue Ad Hoc Committee for the hours that they put into this effort, and that includes members of our community that themselves were really active and participatory in this effort. So again, I just want to make sure that the community is aware that this wasn't something that was brought up and drafted and designed last minute. This has been an ongoing effort since actually last year. So with that, I'd like to give the opportunity to our two members from the ad hoc that chaired that effort, so that you can make your comments before the rest of us do, or make any, not only comments, but ask any questions of staff. So with that, why don't we start off with Councilmember Dutton?
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Yeah, as the ad hoc committee vetted several different ideas that would bring revenue to the city, and this was back last year, almost like it was last September, October, that we had the meetings, and we decided then that we needed new revenue sources because our revenue was dwindling, and we needed it then. Now we need it more than ever with the pandemic that's going on, and as we see our revenue shrinking. We took in 3 to 5 different revenue sources and picked this one to be the easiest one, the best one, the most revenue, to get where we need to be with our economic development, where as the residents of this community has always seen the things we've done in the last 10, 12 years of putting this town back together. The days of the empty sidewalks are gone, and we just need something to keep it going, and we don't want to just go backwards anymore. We want to go forward, and this is one idea that we came up with to at least maintain services and have a little extra to grow the city the way it needs to be grown. That's my comment. I also have a comment with the ballot statement. Is it the right time also?
Yes, please.
On the ballot statement, I noticed the yes and the no boxes that are next to it. The yes is real small box. Is that the way it's going to be on the ballot statement? Should it be even? Should it be a big yes and a little no? I'm just saying.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Elections Division will actually make that, how do I say that, equally large.
Yeah, it just stuck out at me. I'm just sorry. With that, as long as that'll be fixed, that's all I have on this matter, and I fully support this resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that background, those comments. Councilmember Sunny Santinez.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to echo the comments of the mayor in thanking the members of the Revenue Subcommittee who did work on this project very diligently. We had a lot of discussions, and I believe that the subcommittee came up with good recommendations. And this message is for the Revenue Subcommittee. Although the subcommittee came up with, I believe, 3 recommendations, the City Council is pursuing only one of them. And I'm addressing this to you because we're not ignoring the other 2. From my perspective, again, this is my personal perspective, I think it's the right thing to do because if we pursue 2 or 3 of those ballot measures, I think our chance of making this happen will be reduced significantly because, come to think of it, if a voter is voting and he or she is against one of them, he or she may vote totally against all the ballot measures. So I think by just pursuing one ballot measure at a time, I think it will enhance our chance of making this happen, and I think we have a good chance that this will pass. Secondly, I'm in total support of this ballot measure. To me, the bottom line is, as our city manager explained earlier, the cap is 10.25%, and right now it's 9.5%. So there is whatever's left right now is only 0.75% or 0.75%. To me, the bottom line is, if we don't take it, the county will take it. So I think I'd rather have the money be available to us locally instead of making it available to the county, because once the 0.75% sales tax becomes available to the county, we have less control where the money is going to. If it's passed here as a ballot measure in this November election, this 0.75% sales tax will be local. It's going to be controlled by us, the council, and the citizens of this great city. In addition to that, some of our neighboring cities already have the maximum sales tax. Particularly, I think Downey has had for quite some time, and just recently, City of Paramount and City of Lakewood passed their own sales tax ballot measure. So we're not the only one who's doing this. Some cities have done this already. Now, a question to the city attorney: when you said the support for this ballot measure, can the council write a ballot measure? A support letter in the ballot?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, Councilmember Santinez, the council can either designate one person to write it or designate a subcommittee to write it, and the council can all sign it. That's the way the elections code is set up, so that elected officials have first priority in terms of supporting a particular argument.
Okay. So the way it's going to happen is either individual, one or 2 members of the subcommittee and then supported by the entire council.
Correct. The one thing that the council cannot do is delegate that responsibility to staff, because once this goes onto the ballot, public resources cannot be used in order to advocate or detract from a particular ballot measure.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Now, in terms of the change here in the 20-42 and 43, the changes that will remain in effect until terminated by voters be adopted. So if that happens, if that were to happen, we have to go through the same process as we're doing now.
That's correct. Some taxes, as is mentioned in the staff report, for example, the UUT had a specific time period within which it would be effective, and then it would,
Yeah, there's a sunset provision.
There's a sunset clause in it. So unless the voters were to extend that particular tax, it would die. This one, the opposite is true. It will continue unless voters cut off the tax.
Using the same process as we're doing now
Correct.
to undo it.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
They could get a ballot measure to do a referendum to repeal it as well.
Yes, they could circulate a petition for an initiative to repeal it.
Okay.
That is also a possibility, but it would inevitably come back before the city council to be placed onto the ballot.
Okay, all right, very good. So, finally, I just want to say that I'm in full support of this ballot measure. I think it's, as the city manager explained very well in the beginning of this meeting, we need the money. There's no hiding about it. We need it before the pandemic, and we need it even more now. So I'm in full support of this ballot measure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Santinez. Solid questions as always. Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Mic on. So I'm impressed with what we've heard from Sunny and from Ray as to how the outcome of the meetings went. And I think the choice to go with the increase on the sales tax and leave the other items alone at this time is wise. One question I have of staff, about 6 or 8 months ago, the state was going to allow cities to receive the sales tax portion from internet sales. Has that gone into effect? And if so, will this potential number be applied to that as well?
The answer to the second part is no, and Tay will explain that it has gone into effect, and we have some numbers on that today. I don't know exactly what they are, but Tay will.
That law did take effect, and our annual sales tax gain is roughly $150,000 to $200,000 a year.
And that's, now I heard someone say that it may not be used at the same rate that we're considering now. It would remain at whatever it is now, 9.5, but not enjoy the 10
Mr.
point.
Coops, it comes through the pooled sales tax pool that comes in, and that's our additional share that we get.
Okay.
Coming from the state, so it doesn't impact the limit that we're talking about today.
All right.
On the sales tax.
Well, that number is better than what I think initially we thought maybe we would get 90 or 100. So it's almost double what we expected, correct? So, okay, well, that's all good. So that was an improvement, or one of the few things, it's a bright spot on our income stream. Thank you, Mr. Ree. So I'm in agreement with what has been said, that we should figure out a way to get this on the ballot in a way that's understood. Mr. City Attorney, I expect the converse is true as well on writing the proposition, that if someone out there wants to write something that indicates that they are not in agreement with this, there'll be that potential as well?
Yes, that is correct. And the resolution with regard to ballot arguments sets forth the timing for arguments that are disfavorable toward this particular ballot proposition.
And how's that conveyed to the public so they know they have that option?
The city clerk's office is very good at letting people know about that.
Okay.
And certainly the resolution is posted with regard to the arguments and when those arguments need to come in.
If I may, sorry, there also is a notice that needs to be placed in the newspaper regarding the deadline for ballot arguments as well.
So anybody that lives within the city and is registered voter could offer that?
That's correct.
Mr. Coops, you'll recall during the ballot measure that we had for the cannabis tax, we had an opposing point of view on the ballot.
Right. And it wouldn't be unusual that someone might not, we could have no opposition as well. That can be we'd still go forward. All right, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Councilmember Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just have comments, but, well, I do have a question at the end. But I just wanted to echo again some of the comments made, but I do want to again thank the subcommittee. I think it was a group that was well representative of this community. They had some great discussion. We were watching it closely too, and you know, the mayor and I were on the charter city committee, and we'll work harder in the future for that. So, but again, they focused, and they again came up with a recommendation that I believe is solid, and definitely something I think that this community can again buy into. I did want to again echo the comments in regards to like other cities that are doing this also, and again they are beating those other agencies to the punch, so to speak, and they're gonna you know, again have that money to again keep in their communities and not let it go out to be grabbed by others. So that's another point that's to be stressed. Again, I'm a citizen of this community. I've lived here all my life, and seen highs, a lot of highs, and seen some lows, but we are moving on another high from a low here, but and we're gonna make it work, and we have to again do some or you know, make some bold decisions during some challenging times, and this time is likely the most severe situation that we'll face in our lifetime. And so we got to be bold. We got to move forward. We got to again look to those you know, higher levels. And this has to be one of them. And we have to respond in a timely manner. So moving forward is the thing to do, and to keep this community at the high standards that that we expect, that we all expect here. So I am supportive of moving forward. Again, it's up to the voters, so we will see there. Just a question on the last, the extra reso staff. Again, being the new guy, so knowing if there was any precedent to something like that, and because I keep hearing in my mind, because we've been told for the last month or so is to educate, not advocate. So let me just pass that to staff, and then again, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I can address the last question. That is accurate. That said, remember that the city is a municipal corporation, so under the law, it actually is a person. And so based upon that, the city of Monterey, the city of Bellflower actually has a constitutional right to express its opinion with regard to a ballot proposition. So that is the one exception under the law with regard to advocacy, which is that the city itself can make a recommendation with regard to the ballot measure. It's a bit of a quirk in the law.
Oh, okay, thank you, Carl. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's great. I mean, you're right. It's a good reminder that. So thank you for that. Always a pleasure. And just by the way, Mr. Hamada is new to the council, but he's not new, and he brings a wealth of experience to our community. So again,
I just got to bring it out there for the public too. So.
And so my comments will probably be in line with what's already been said. But for me, I think when we started exploring the potential of doing this, when the last Measure P, when it sunset, and I know at that point in time, we as a council and as staff, we were considering, okay, how do we make up for this revenue loss? For me, on a personal level, it's really important that we as a council keep our promise. And the promise back then was that we would not come back and extend Measure P, that we were going to attempt to make do with what we had. And I'm personally really proud of the fact that this council did keep its promise. We could have taken action at that point in time to extend that measure, and we didn't. We attempted to do what we could. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a situation now where I think we've trimmed about as much as we can. And so, again, I'm just proud of the fact that we kept our promise to the voters on that. But the reality is that even pre-COVID, the long-term fiscal picture for the city, while not dire, there were definitely some hazards that we were noticing were going to be coming up, and we made every single attempt to be able to mitigate for those and not come to this point. And again, right, like with any household, any business, expenses go up, right? The cost of living goes up, expenses go up, and the city is not immune to that. At the same time, because of our current tax structure that we have in our state, and in terms of what we as a city can do to be able to generate revenue, we are limited to a large extent in terms of the revenue sources that we can affect. And to the point that Mayor Pro Tem Coops made before, the online sales tax is one revenue stream that is new in concept, but the reality is that while we are thankfully generating online sales taxes, at the end of the day, it's not really aggregating at the rate that would make up for those losses of the revenue that we're not making anymore, because of the fact that we as a society are modernizing and people are buying things less and less in our traditional stores. So when we find ourselves in this situation, I think as a council and as a city, we have to take measures and not react until we get to that point where we actually are in a challenging situation. And I think the actions that are being proposed today are to be able to prevent that long-term effect and be able to prevent any lasting damage that could happen not only to our community but towards residents as well. So I want to ensure that was out there. Again, this effort, the viewpoint that we were seeing through that, just looking into the future, this is something that we anticipated and saw even pre-COVID. So COVID has just exacerbated the issue. So I wanted to ensure that is something that was put out there, that this is not a potential of a tax being imposed because of COVID. That is not the case. This is something that we anticipated even pre-COVID. COVID has just worsened the situation. And the reality is that we as cities, even this week, as cities have gone to the federal government and asked for the federal government for assistance, at this point in time, we're not seeing that cavalry coming in to assist us. So this is something that we have to handle and address at the local level. And so this is what's upon us before us today. I have to tell you that on a personal level, this consideration of raising this issue is something that personally just has weighed on me. I don't think it's immune to any of us up here on the council nor staff that our community is suffering, right? COVID has affected us. It's affected us in our jobs, in being able to provide for our families. We are not immune. We are not blind to that. We absolutely understand the reality of what's going on in this community, not only in this community, but in all communities. And so I just want the public to know that this is something that me on a personal level, it was not an easy decision. But the reality is that as the city manager stated before, there are agencies out there that are looking to themselves make up for their funding gaps in their budgets. And unfortunately, this level of taxes that may be put before the voters, if this thing passes today, is something that's an essentially an unprotected revenue source for these other agencies, and they know it. And so everything comes back to the point of, if we don't do this, there's going to be outside agencies that will most likely try to obtain this funding. And if this funding is enacted by them and it's passed by the voters by them, this funding will leave our city. That's a reality. It's happened already, and I can tell you that there are agencies, not only to what the city manager said, but outside agencies that are not direct government, such as United Way, that are actively exploring right now of possible revenue streams for other causes. And so me as a mayor of Bellflower, but not only that, but as a father in the city of Bellflower and as a resident of Bellflower, it comes back to I'd rather keep these funds in our city to benefit our city and our residents, rather than them leaving our city and never finding themselves on the way back to Bellflower. So it's that old adage, right? You can either pay now or pay later, but you're gonna pay. And unfortunately, that's the reality with what we have before us. So, being a protectionist, I'd rather keep this funding in our city. As was said before, this is something that is not unique to Bellflower. It is a process, an effort that's being undertaken by other cities as well. And again, I'll just end with that comment that I'd rather keep this money in Bellflower because it's going to go somewhere, and I'd rather let it go here than let it go somewhere else. So that completes my comments. I'm not sure if there's any other questions or comments, gentlemen. All right, so seeing none, Mr. City Attorney and Madam City Clerk, I know that we have the resolutions before us today. I know there was comment also about the potential of us designating council members to have a comment and opinion for us on behalf of the city. Is that something we want to do now to designate today, or?
I'd recommend you take public comment first, and
Okay.
then make those decisions.
Great. All right. So thank you for doing that. So I want to ensure that that was out there. So as a public itself is making comments, they're aware of that as well. So with that, why don't we let's open it up for public comments regarding item 4A. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comments regarding what was spoken about here today and regarding item 4A?
Yes, Mayor. The first speaker is CJ Nord. Ms. Nord, if you will give me just a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Nord.
I want to take a moment and accept responsibility, and should it come up in the future, the word blame I would also accept that for bringing this problem to this level. As a citizen, as a neighborhood watch captain, I've seen the city cut and cut and cut. And I was part of other citizens pounding our fists on the table and saying, we have to do something about this now. So I take responsibility as a citizen for bringing this to my electeds. And I would like to take some of the responsibility away from them because they really did not want to raise taxes. So if there's any blame, point it over here. I'll be more than happy to take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. North, for your comments, and it's always a pleasure. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make comment regarding item 4A?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any other public comment at this time.
Thank you so much for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. Okay, so I'll bring it back to us. So, gentlemen, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I have just one follow-up question.
Please.
Regarding the statements for or against the ballot measure, if I recall, there's a limit, right? There's only one for and one against, and then they can do a rebuttal, and then something like tit for tat, whatever it is.
That's correct.
Okay, good. I'm glad you described it well. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? All right. Oh. Great.
Madam City Clerk, I believe there's another hand raised.
Great.
Yes, Mayor. Vanessa Delgado would like to present public comment.
Great. Welcome, Ms. Delgado.
Ms. Delgado, if you will give me just a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin.
Great.
And while she's getting set up, my apologies for missing that raise hand before.
It was my fault. I didn't know how to work it. So
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Delgado.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the time, Mayor, members of the City Council. I just wanted to speak out in support of the sales tax measure. I am a local developer who has purchased a property and is proud to be developing in Bellflower. Your staff has been incredibly helpful in helping to create our new upcoming project called Bellflower Center. And we are building retail, but as a business owner, I am more concerned that the city is able to provide the public services necessary for a good community, which includes police and making sure we have adequate code enforcement, and then building and planning services to, make sure we can function. So I am wholeheartedly supportive of your efforts. A lot of our area cities already have this. And so as a customer, I don't think people will necessarily feel the impact. And as others have mentioned, there are other agencies, one that I actually happen to sit on, that are considering sales tax measures. So I think it's prudent to make sure those resources are in the community. And yeah, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for those comments, Ms. Delgado. Very much appreciated.
Miss Avery, I
Yes,
believe
hello,
that there's
can you hear me?
someone else that wanted to speak. Mr. Jerry's, he is unmuted, but I believe that he was unable to raise his hand. So if you could put the timer on, please.
Yes, hello.
Welcome.
Hello. Yes, thank you. This is John Jurius, the operator of the Stand Up Comedy Club. But I wanted to, second the sentiment of the
hold on to your
previous.
comments, please. I think we have to put the timer on first, if you don't mind. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, great. Please proceed now. Thank you for your patience.
Great. I did want to second the sentiment of the previous business owner as well. A lot of the development that the city has invested time and money in has been, showing a lot of fruition, and it's a matter of progression. I think nothing stays the same, especially in this climate. And the ability to raise sales tax to use it for programs that the city is benefiting from in the community, I think is vital. And if it's, Pico Rivera, Santa Fe Springs, the cities that I've been involved with, everybody's raised their sales tax. And I just think it's about progression. And the city's in a progressive mind right now. And I think we just have to follow suit and take advantage. And I think it'll benefit the community in years to come, especially with the type of infrastructure that the city's already put in place.
Thank you, sir. Does that complete your comments?
Yes, that's all.
Thank you so much for your comments. We deeply appreciate it. I just want to make sure that everyone was covered before I move on.
It doesn't look like there is any other raised hands.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Stover, and Madam Deputy City Clerk, for all your efforts. Okay, so bringing it back, any other questions or comments, gentlemen, before? All right, so seeing none, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
The appointment of the person who's going to be writing the
Okay, we can do
statement
that.
of support.
Absolutely, we can do that right at this point in time then. So are there any members of the City Council that would like to participate in that effort to write the statement?
I'll volunteer.
Okay. Great.
I could team up with him if he wants.
Oh, absolutely.
I've done it before.
I'm just waiting for you to say that.
Great. All right, gentlemen.
We've been down this path before.
Let me ask for clarification. Is it your intent for the two council members to develop language for all five council members to sign for the ballot measure?
That is my interpretation of their, so that would be it. You're capturing that correct, Mr. City Manager. But obviously, we haven't voted on this yet, so I would expect that we would vote on the items first, and then, if approved, then at that point, be able to vote on this designation, correct? Otherwise, it's premature, so.
And then, Mayor, I'd like to make a clarification, because Sonny did bring it up, that
Yes, sir.
we would be doing the argument in favor, and if there was any arguments against, we would also be doing the rebuttal.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And so we will consider that here in a couple seconds. So with that, gentlemen, so Mr. City Attorney and Madam City Clerk, do we vote on each one of these resolutions individually, or?
You could
Can we go
group them
blank?
and vote for them. If
I'm sorry?
you could add them, you vote for them as a group, or you could vote them independently. It's up to you.
Okay, so at your pleasure, can we do all three at the same time?
Or four?
Or four, I'm sorry, at the
I
same time?
recommend.
Yes, okay, great. So,
Sure.
what's your pleasure regarding the 4 items before us, gentlemen?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the City Council of Bellflower to adopt resolutions 20-42, 20-43, 20-44, and 20-45.
I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Garza?
Aye. Thank you so much for that, Madam City Clerk. All right, and now to the designation of our 2 members. So if I understood correctly, just again confirming this, it would be before us for consideration would be designating Councilmember Sunny Santinez and Councilmember Ray Dutton to provide the actual statement in support and also to provide commentary to the rebuttal.
If
On
there's,
behalf
if
of the
there's
city.
opposition, correct.
Is that correct? We're good?
Mhm.
Okay, so any other thoughts regarding the designation of these 2 gentlemen? All right, so I'll make a motion for that designation. All right, so I have a motion by myself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Coops. As stated, roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Garza?
Aye. Great. Thank you so much for that, Madam City Clerk. Okay, so item 5A, consent calendar.
Well, one item,
One.
little bit of business left.
Yes, please.
The discretionary resolution 20-46, is it the council's intent to adopt that resolution or not? Your pleasure.
In support of?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'll read it.
my bad.
Looking for, my
Like, I'm
bad.
missing something. Okay.
I'm looking for the item, it's on the last section here. Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this will be a resolution number 20-46, a resolution supporting a ballot proposition needed to maintain Bellflower's long-term financial stability, fund emergency and safety responses, keep public areas clean, safe, ensure the supply of clean drinking water, retain local businesses, address homelessness, repair streets, maintain after-school youth, disabled senior programs, and fund other general municipal services by establishing a 3/4 cent sales tax, transaction and use tax, sales tax, raising approximately $4.5 million annually to maintain Bellflower's general municipal services with audits and public disclosure and spending.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Stewart.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, one correction, section 2 should be not endorses Proposition 22. It should be formally endorses ballot measure that you just put onto the ballot. So we'll put in the correct language for that. My apologies.
Not a problem. Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. City Attorney. Okay, so any questions, comments? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
For consistency, should we also add the phrase that will remain in effect until terminated by voters be adopted?
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments regarding? Okay. So just to clarify, we already took public comment on this item as well, correct?
We read it all, I introduced it early on, so we took public comment on everything.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so since we already took public comment on this, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the City Council of Bellflower to adopt Resolution 20-46 as corrected.
Great. So I have a motion. Is there a second? So there's a motion by Councilmember Santinez, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Garza?
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Are we good before we? Okay.
I have one other
Yes,
question
please.
before we move on. It's regarding the letter designation for the measure. Will that be coming from the from Councilmember Santinas and Councilmember Dutton as well, or is it a suggestion collectively by the council? We're able to request a letter designated to our measure. It's first come, first served, so it's not guaranteed that we would get it. But is there a request from the council?
Yeah, I think
at this
Sonny and
time?
I can noodle on that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes. Not to get clarification. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Anything else before we move on to item 5A? All right, so seeing and hearing none, item 5A, consent calendar, I don't see any, well, I'll put that out, any conflicts?
Nobody's conflicted.
All right, I think we're good, right? Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion regarding item 5A.
Okay, move to approve, 5A.
All right, so I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Big day, gentlemen. Thank you for coming in. Thank you to the audience for participating in a special council meeting. We understand it's a Thursday, it's in the morning, so again, we appreciate your participation. And it is 11:33 by my watch, and this meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Juan. Hour.
Now you're ready for, now you're ready